Creating a new administrative entity and deploying a Chinese garrison on disputable islands in the South China Sea has intensified a diplomatic showdown between Washington and Beijing. The U.S. State Department accused China of fueling tensions in the region. In response, Beijing demanded that Washington respect China's sovereignty and territorial integrity. China has created a district which includes the 3 islands and an adjacent aquatic zone. This district is also fully or partially claimed by Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Brunei. China does not cast doubt on its sovereignty over these islands, and administratively, its claims have already been boosted. The Philippines and Vietnam were quick to stage an array of anti-China actions, with the United States following suit. Washington, in fact, supported the Philippines and Vietnam's claims on the islands by accusing China of escalating tensions in the region. In 2010, Beijing warned Washington, in particular Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, against the third country's interference in territorial spats in the South China Sea, something that Beijing says is an exclusive prerogative of bilateral relations. Beijing is seriously concerned about Washington's attempts to create the ASEAN-leaning anti-China alliance. Meanwhile, China continues to capitalize on the ASEAN countries being at odds over the islands in the South China Sea, say analysts. They are echoed by Yakov Berger of the Moscow-based Far East Institute.
Если судить по недавнему совещанию министров иностранных дел стран АСЕАН,
It's too early to speak of the creation of an anti-China alliance, Berger says, referring to the results of the ASEAN's recent ministerial meeting in Cambodia. Only 4 of the 10 ASEAN countries have territorial spats with China. The Cambodia gathering once again reflected the existing differences between ASEAN members on the matter. Cambodia, which currently holds the rotating presidency of the ASEAN, is demonstrating pro-Chinese sentiments, something that prompts Beijing to call Cambodia its best friend. In the meantime, analysts warn of ever-increasing attempts by Washington to pile pressure on China when it comes to the territorial dispute. In this regard, Washington's angry reaction to the deployment of a Chinese garrison on the contentious islands is just an episode in the war of nerves. Sergei Lunyov of the Moscow State Institute of International Relations believes, however, that an armed conflict over the islands is unlikely.
Мне кажется, что это к серьезному кризису не приведет, и проблема будет урегулирована.
I think this will hardly lead to a serious crisis, and that the problem will finally be resolved. That is to say, attempts will be made to rectify the situation, and I guess the conflict is unlikely to plunge into a critical phase, he concludes. It's clear that China and the United States will not let their economic relations be tarnished by the military row over the oil and gas-rich islands in the South China Sea. If one of China's immediate neighbors decides to unleash an armed conflict in the South China Sea, this will immediately affect the U.S.'s interests. In addition, a possible local conflict between China and the U.S. may impact international markets.